I'll give you my assessment of what I think is happening, but this is what you would expect to see out of a sane party. This is what you should see. U.S. Senator John Fetterman, literally, I think the only Democrat senator with brain damage, is the one that actually comes out and says this stuff. I unapologetically stand for free speech, peaceful demonstrations, and immigration, but this is not that. This is anarchy and true chaos. My party loses the moral high ground when we refuse to condemn setting cars on fire, destroying buildings, and assaulting law enforcement. And he's right. Although he tipped his hand a little bit, showing how important the moral high ground is to them. I think it's more important to be like, right? Like to be saying something objectively truthful. I think it's an admission there that everybody else in the party is more concerned about the moral high ground than actually being right or correct or giving people objectively what's best for them. Ted says tea leaves. The Democratic senator from Pennsylvania knows what the polling says, but unlike most of the rest of his party, he has the wisdom to say it. The fact that union voters in his state have just seen jobs saved and more on the way may help focus his mind. Democrats, be more like John. I thought there was a chance that they might do it. I bet you if you went to Reddit right now on Reddit politics, they're just absolutely savaging this guy. They will not suffer any dissent whatsoever. And so this is my problem. We're going to look at the polling again, and I'm going to prove to you how unpopular what Gavin Newsom is doing right now is. We talked about his polling before. He was never polling very well. This is probably going to hurt him. And all of these positions that he's standing on are 20 or 30% positions at best. And yet they continue to do it. They're obviously doing it, knowing it's a loser. So there must be some other motivation. What is it? It's either that Gavin Newsom wants to rule over a pile of ashes that is the Democrat Party, and he thinks this will get him there. It's maybe that they think that if he gets to the head of the party, they're going to be able to lie, cheat, and steal their way into power again. That could be it. Maybe they think there's going to be major blowback against Trump. Maybe there's a plan to create said major blowback against Trump. Maybe. Again, maybe this is just what the foreign adversaries want. I really don't know, but it doesn't make any sense. And now they're like really doubling down. And so we have a situation where there's been a lot of accusations that these riots were, funded by all the CIA cutouts and USAID money matriculating to all the little places that can give paychecks in the hands of Antifa commies. But now you have big business getting involved. And this is relevant to our conversation as we go and talk about Global Homo. But here's a map and a list of the cities hosting No Kings protest against Trump on June 14th. Now, first, the messaging and branding here is just totally retarded. No Kings, this is almost as bad as Taco. Trump always chickens out. Remember the video where all the congressional representatives on the Democrat side were pretending that they were like players in the Street Fighter trailer or something like that? Everything they do is cringe, and this is just more of it. But where this money is coming from is Christy Walton, the Walmart heiress worth $20 billion. And she's funding a lot of these. They're probably using the Obama Community Organizing Action Network in order to schedule all these things across the country. It's kind of wild. They've been trying, and we've been following it for months and months to jumpstart some kind of resistance riots, and none of it worked. They got a few boomers out at Tesla dealerships. I mean, that was literally it. They had a couple of people in cities saying something about no hands. Nobody remembers that. What was that even about? Hands off. That's what it was. Their branding is so weak, you can't even remember it a month later. And yet look at all these super organic rallies. Now, this is actually near and dear to my heart. And this, I think, tipped off a little bit where this is coming from in my perspective. So first off, we know, I don't think that Christy Walton's doing this on behalf of Walmart. Walmart came out Laura Loomer had some reporting that Walmart actually disavowed this publicly with a press release. And that's good because they're pretty tied to China. They get supply chain is massively coming from China. Many of their SKUs. Doug McMillan's part of the Business Roundtable. All kinds of financial ties to China. I would wager we all know how large corporations get sort of co-opted by some of the big money managers too that have ties to China. So it, in my opinion, is fair to look at it and question what kind of things are happening behind the scenes. But here she is, and she's literally like a blue anon with $20 billion, and she's putting all this together. And here's why this one strikes home. This picture here, what you're looking at is July 1970, Asbury Park, New Jersey. That's Springwood Avenue, burned by the rioters. That red circle is circling the intersection of Atkins Avenue and Springwood Avenue. This is like a few hundred yards away from where I live in the summers. And I can tell you, they planned that No Kings rally at the exact intersection where the fire started in the race riots in 1970. And so to me, this is a very performative signal. Maybe it's just a tell that they're in a 1970 communist radical state of mind. I don't know. Maybe they really want and are trying to lean into these race riots. It's awful hard to have a race riot with Black Trump approval in the 40s, though. That's the thing. That's what is so wild. Gavin Newsom is up there fighting. To be the one that is most effective at resisting the most popular political agenda in decades. That's where we're at. It makes absolutely no sense. Here's Harry Enton talking about it. You know, we just got some news from him. Oh, isn't that crazy? People actually want to deport illegal aliens. Harry Enton finally caught up with the rest of us. We've been saying it for years. But here he talks a little bit about Gavin Newsom. Let's give it a listen.
Yeah, let's just start off. If Gavin Newsom wanted to take on Donald Trump and loves the attention, he has 100% gotten it. Take a look here. Google searches of Gavin Newsom with Donald Trump. Get this up. 9,700% versus a week ago. More folks are Googling Gavin Newsom's name with Donald Trump than ever before in Google searches dating all the way back since 2004. Donald Trump was able to make a name for himself through The Apprentice, through all of his business ventures. He is now making a name for Gavin Newsom, who seems more than willing to relish in this fight.
What are the numbers and how can you kind of gauge why Newsom would see, if we're taking this,
look how he's framing
why Newsom would see benefit
Heroic.
in taking on Trump?
Yeah, why is it that Gavin Newsom is more than willing to take on Donald Trump? And, you know, it's all about 2028, and it's all about where Democrats want their candidates to be. Should Democrats oppose Donald Trump more? Among Democrats, look at this. 84% of Democrats nationwide say they want Democrats to take on Donald Trump more. This is not.
That's ABC News, Washington Post, Reuters, by the way.
Democrats want to compromise with Donald Trump. No, they want a fighter with Donald Trump. And at this particular point, that is a big reason why Gavin Newsom, in my opinion, at least politically speaking, is leaning into this fight, because he is thinking ahead to the future. He's thinking ahead to 2028. And with a vast majority, look, you rarely get 84% of Democrats to agree on anything except for the dislike of Donald Trump. And that is what we see right now. They want that opposition of Donald Trump. And that is why Gavin Newsom seems to be more than willing to take him on.
In the wildly too early, likely unreliable look at where
those numbers are garbage. I have better ones.
The 2028 race, where is Newsom?
Yeah, this is so important to point out. Where is this race right now? The top chances to be the 2028 nominee. Look, it's a clown car at this particular point. All these candidates squished together, but you'll notice that one name is ahead of the rest.
So the Kalshi numbers match mine.
12%. You see Ocasio-Cortez 10, Buttigieg 10, Shapiro 6%. But
that's
Gavin
what we
Newsom
have.
Certainly is up there right now in terms of the candidates who are best in position.
Yeah, he didn't put Kamala Harris on.
And he knows that the best way to get this 2028 nomination is, again, to oppose Donald Trump, that 84% of Democrats who want it. And at this particular point, he's getting all that attention, as we see in those Google searches, up 9,700% versus a week ago, Newsom with Donald Trump.
And what it also, of course, will come down to going forward is not just taking him on, but
No way.
and how effective you are.
Talshi only has Kamala Harris at 6%. That's wild. Polling has her at 40%. People want her. People in the Democrat Party want Kamala Harris 4 times more than Gavin Newsom. Will his number go up? Yeah, there are some people that will say, oh, look, Gavin Newsom's all of a sudden starting to fight, and I want somebody to fight Trump. And he says, well, that's 83% or whatever of Democrats. And I cannot reproduce those numbers. Let me just tell you. ABC, Washington Post, Reuters, we know how bad the Reuters panel is. Which is better for the country if Democrats in Congress try to work with President Trump to find agreement, or if Democrats in Congress totally oppose President Trump on every issue? And a plurality of Democrats say oppose Trump on every issue. It's only 45%. 43% say work with Trump. So the Democrats I'm asking, and again, maybe they're just different than the Reuters ones, but the Democrats that I'm asking, sorry, the ABC Washington Post, the Democrats I'm asking are undecided about whether Democrats in Congress should resist Trump or not. That's a proxy for people like Gavin Newsom. So I'm going to continue to prove that what Gavin Newsom is doing is a complete political loser. And I'm going to start by looking at Donald Trump approval. It's pretty crazy. Rasmussen reports daily presidential tracking poll for Wednesday shows that 52% of U.S. likely voters approve of President Trump's job performance, 47% disapprove, net +5. Here's what it looks like on a chart. Look, it's starting to come back up again. And this 52%, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm pretty sure we're hitting a 53% tomorrow. Now, this is just total approval, not net, but the disapproves also dropping, and he's starting to blow back out to higher than he's been. He's up +5. That's pretty big, and it started happening over the last couple of days as this stuff played out. Why? Because one of the top issues was violent crime. It was squeezed out by economic issues. Number one issue was prices and inflation, prices in the economy. Number two issue was the border. The border is a signal about the economy, but also about crime. And all the numbers are over the 4 years of Biden, violent crimes getting worse. Trust Republicans on the issue of crime. They want more law enforcement, law and order. This law and order was an important part of the Trump 2024 vote because of the way the judicial system was weaponized against political opponents. Look at this. His approval index is tightening back up and is really good. But we're going to look at this in some additional context. But quick, here's the snapshot. Today's snapshot again, 52% approve, 47% disapprove. He's only 3 points underwater in the approval index. 38% strongly disapprove of him, 35% strongly approve. Joe Biden routinely had strongly approves, 15%, 20%, low numbers. 64% of Republican voters strongly approve, 84% total approval. That's one of the higher numbers we've had. Democrats, 26% still approve. Independents are almost even. And look at black voters, 46% approval. Is it real? I think. I would trust my numbers over Edison exit polling or anything out of the ABC Washington Post. They probably have Trump favorability at like 42% right now. They're probably 25 net points to the left of me. So these numbers are good. Right track, 47%, wrong direction, 48%, underwater 1. It puts it within striking distance, the highest numbers we've ever seen over the last couple of weeks. We've been hitting records with a majority of voters for the first time in 20 years saying the country is headed in the right direction. And these are back up after a couple of days of readings in the low 40s. So everything is moving back up. Here are the last 5 daily overnights. These are about 400 results each. Newest at the top, oldest at the bottom. If you look at this total approved column, we had a 56% approval overnight last night. Now, 49% the night before, 54% the night before that. They swing around. This 46 is going to roll off. But my point is, look at the upward trend. Look at how low total disapproval was last night, 44%. Right direction, 50% last night. Again, a daily. Big margin of error. A lot of statistical noise here. Or having a 41% right direction roll off, the number's going to be higher again. These numbers are going back up. And it's because they're playing cities burning on the TV. And we looked at the polling on Monday. We looked at the polling that said people figured out awful quick about the Black Lives Matter riot. It was mostly about people taking advantage of the situation to commit crimes. And only 32% actually said, this is only a month after the BLM riots, only 32% said, actually, this really is about police outrage. That's what this is. Only 35% said that they were mostly peaceful protests. Here's the historical context. Here is all of it. All right. Approval comparison, all of the approval numbers. Look at that red line. So now, again, even in our n equals 2,000 rolling 5-day number that we put out every day, there is statistical noise, plus or minus 2% margin of error. And so I do a 10-period moving average here to smooth that out. And what do we see? Donald Trump came in, lost a honeymoon, and is regaining a honeymoon. He's literally back at where he was at the beginning of this presidential term. Did he have a massive surge like this purple line, like Obama did back in 2008 and 9? Well, no, because voters don't believe politicians anymore. This was because Obama ran on a hell of a lot of lies, and people figured it out because that big purple spike disappeared. But if you zoom in and look here, look at where Trump is tracking. He's tracking well above where he was in term one. The solid red line is Trump. The dotted red line is his first term. And this is really right about here is when the Russian collusion hoax stuff started picking up. Investigation. Trump just passed Biden, who was benefiting from all of the mask stuff coming off and the businesses being. Biden was just about to hit the Afghanistan wall right around here. Okay. Trump has now passed Obama 2.0, who came in pretty strong still in the high 50s. And it looks like he's on a trajectory eventually over the next couple of months, unless something crazy happens. Maybe it's happening right now, tonight, as we speak. Maybe Iran and Israel are finally going at it. I don't know. But if nothing crazy happens, it looks like he's going to cross above Obama 1.0. Politics Jesus. And here's the approval index. Strongly approve minus strong disapproval. It measures something a little bit different than total approval. It measures more of the extremes. Donald Trump 1.0 for most of his term well exceeded Barack Obama. A lot of that is because the media did a lot of shilling for Barack Obama, but everybody kind of figured out that he was a naked socialist. And remember Joe Sixpack and all that kind of stuff. And now look at where Trump 2.0 is. Not as high as Obama 1.0, but that red line is getting really close to that purple line there. That's really close. What is that? We're about 1 month. If Donald Trump's approval index does not plunge in the next month, his approval index will have surpassed Barack Obama 6 months into his term. Remember 2009? Everybody was watching Glee on the television. They just got back from watching Iron Man. Isn't it great? Everybody's so much good entertainment. Isn't it great? I mean, there was a financial crisis, but Barack Obama was going to come and save everybody. Even hugged Chris Christie. All of the ills of the world had been cured, and there was nothing but up from the depths of the financial despair. Look at that purple line. Look at 25% more people said they strongly approved of Barack Obama than strongly disapproved. Now, there might have been some other stuff going on there too, right? Might have been some other opinions, whatever. Direction of country on the Real Clear Politics aggregate. No, let's go to approval. Trump approval. It's down again to 3 from 2. But look, Quinnipiac's doing a lot of the heavy lifting here with an absolute ridiculous -16. This is almost as bad as Atlas Intel is. Look, Atlas Intel. Oh, no, that's the -9 they had. I railed on that. railed on that -9. And of course, Quinnipiac puts out a -16. CBS is holding strong at a -10, no movement from their prior month's poll. And economist YouGov, as you'll see, economist YouGov, I don't think is a very good pollster. I think the YouGov panel is bad as well. Morning Consult's got Trump only underwater 4. We have him at 5 today. Again, 5 is higher than what he's probably averaging in our numbers, but we're aligned with RMG, Trafalgar, Qantas. Where's Rich's last number? Yeah, Rich let his roll off. Harvard Harris has Trump underwater 1. Now those are starting to get back like more than a month. INI -2. That's probably a pretty good number. I think he's probably about parity over the long run, and he's getting a real positive response bias from people who are pumping their fists because Antifa is getting their heads clubbed in with tear gas canisters and stuff. Here's the fake 100-day polling, and here's it's blowing out a little bit now because of the Quinnipiac stuff. Going back to right direction, wrong track. So we had it 47% today. The average is 43. We had wrong track at 48. They have it at 51. But look at what's in the aggregate here. This economist YouGov, again, these proprietary panels always sandbag Trump like 20 points. Reuters, Ipsos does it. Well, Ipsos does it. YouGov does it. -16, 38% right direction. I have it at 47. And then Marquette, -16. If you didn't have those in there, you'd see a number. I don't know. Somebody could probably do the math. It's probably going to be about -6. Well, why is -6 important? Because if it was -6, it would be, I think, the highest reading ever in Real Clear Politics data going all the way back to 2009. So that would be like a 15-year record. It's an awful good thing the Economist and Marquette put those bad polls in there for Donald Trump. We wouldn't want him to be perceived by the industry, not Rasmussen, the industry, to have the best right direction polling, because people have kind of been ignoring my story in the mainstream media, even though Trump's been quoting it, how good the right direction numbers are. How do we start this discussion? We're talking about political unrest and social upheaval in a country that has record high right direction pollings, according to lying pollsters. It's literally insane. And Gavin Newsom is making his political career by fighting against that, by saying, no, these people who are all happy, don't be happy. It doesn't give me the moral authority to be correct about my luxury communist beliefs. It's insane what he's doing, and it doesn't make sense unless the plan is to test the political limits. Accelerationism. That's the only thing I got. Either that or it's just a very cynical attempt to rise to the top of a sinking ship. What else is it? Here's our right direction polling. It looks a lot different than the Real Clear Politics aggregate for sure. We've seen this chart many times, but look at how good the number is under Trump 1. The blue line on average is higher than it was for all of Obama. And then it had another collapse here under Biden. But look at how close these, and again, in the beginning of Trump 1, right direction and wrong track touched for 1 week right here. See those numbers? But generally, look at how, I know this chart is compressed. Look at how long, how many consecutive weeks now right direction polling has been elevated. We really haven't seen that except for maybe, look, it just doesn't go above 40. It hardly went above 40 at all in Obama. It was there, it looks like about half the time for Trump 1. It wasn't there at all for Biden. And now it's been above 40 essentially the entire Trump 2.0 term. I think there was maybe a week in the beginning where it wasn't up there yet because it took a little time. I think everybody was kind of like hoping and praying that Trump would actually get in because there were questions about that. So we're going to recap some immigration polling again to continue to prove that these are political losers. And as you think about this, also try to remember how many immigrants there are in California, how many Mexican Americans and Hispanic Americans. There's a lot. I don't know what it is, 20, 30, 40%. I don't know off the top of my head. There's a lot. They have 1 in 4 illegal immigrants in California. Okay. So just keep that in your mind. And also remember that this week, what we've been talking about is a fight over whether the pollsters are correct that Donald Trump is not leading on the issue of immigration. Atlas Intel, the most accurate pollster, says Trump is underwater 6 points on immigration. Harry Enton acts super surprised that they come out with a poll all of the sudden that he has Trump on immigration. No, we've been putting these numbers out for years now. Trump has utter supremacy on this issue. Which political party do you trust more to handle the economy? 45% Republicans, 43% Democrats. We asked this right after Liberation Day to get a benchmark, and Republicans were still up 2 on the economy. But which party do you trust more to handle immigration? 50% Republicans, 39% Democrats. 9 points better than the economy. Utter supremacy, 11 points. Look at the crossover advantage. Only 75% of Democrats say Democrats, but 84% of Republicans say Republicans, and independents say Republicans by 17 points. Only 3 in 10 independents say that they trust Democrats more than Republicans on the issue of immigration. So no, Republicans are not underwater on immigration, nor is Donald Trump. Here are the Trump numbers. And all of this, again, was just from the last 2 months. I have a lot of polling on the border. We've asked some really insane stuff, like even whether Joe Biden was purposely doing the border invasion. And a majority say yes, obviously. But the reason I want to use polls from the last month or two is because people have seen the optics. There were videos of ICE rolling up to people's places and bashing down doors and throwing them into vans and picking them off at court hearings and stuff. God, it makes me tear up just thinking about it. And I think the left has this belief that if you put enough things like Elian Gonzalez out there, at some point in this America, people are going to care, and they're not. How do you rate the way President Trump is handling issues related to immigration? 40% excellent. I think his excellent was only 16% on the economy. 40% excellent. 13% good. 53%. Joe Biden's highest reading ever on anything was 43, and that was on Ukraine or national security, I think like the month after Ukraine. Directionally, it was somewhere back then. So this is utter supremacy as well. 43% say fair or poor, only 33% say poor. So only 1 in 3 U.S. likely voters says that Donald Trump is doing a poor job on immigration. Interesting. But look at Hispanics, 42% excellent, 16% good. Oh, let's go back to the other poll, though. Hispanics, 59% Republican on the issue of immigration, 30% Democrats. Hispanics are almost 2-to-1 Republicans to Democrats on the issue of immigration. And here they're 42% excellent on Trump for the issue of immigration, 16% good. So that's 58%. There's your 60-30 again. It's incredible. Like massive numbers. Look, they poll more conservative on this than white voters do. And 66% of Republicans say excellent, 18% good. 60% of Democrats say poor. So Democrats are calling out Trump, but it's just not enough because look at the independents. 49% of independents say excellent or good. Only 30% say poor. President Trump has declared the Venezuelan crime gang Tren de Agua to be a foreign terrorist organization and invoked the Alien Enemies Act to deport these gang members. Remember all the histrionics? Oh, well, we're not at a time of war. Oh, it's a Maryland father. Oh, they're not violent gang members. They're upstanding members of our society. These are your neighbors. Your neighbors. They're taking your neighbors. Look at that. What is that? 64%? 64% at least somewhat support getting these people out. 47% strongly. only 26% are opposed. That's like 2-1. Again, 2-1, 2-1 over and over again. And these are, we'll look at another one that's a higher signal. These are very high hurdles. This is like aggressively deport these people. There's a lot of disagreeableness baked into this question. And that's one of the problems, is that Americans are pretty agreeable in general. 43% of Democrats want to get these people deported, including a ridiculous 89% of Republicans. And independents are 64% to only 25%. And yeah, they wanted to impeach Judge Boasberg too, 49% to 24%, a 2-to-1 plurality, 2-to-1, again, 2-to-1. How important is it that illegal immigrants who commit crimes in America should be deported? Sounds like a no-brainer. And it is. 79%, at least somewhat important, 56% very important. The only people who say not at all, which is like, in my opinion, the sanctuary city signal, right? It's like, no, we don't have borders. We're open borders. We shouldn't deport people. No, that's 5% freaking percent, 5% of the electorate. That is who Gavin Newsom is playing to right now. 5% of the freaking electorate. Look at Hispanic voters. 61% of Hispanic voters say it's very important to deport criminal illegal aliens. Another 16% somewhat, so that's 76%, 3/4 of Hispanic voters, more than white voters. And look at Democrats, 43% strongly, very important, 25% somewhat important, 68%. So 7 in 10 Democrat U.S. likely voters say we need to deport criminal illegal aliens. And Gavin Newsom thinks he's running for president on this issue. It is not political opportunism. It is not. It cannot be with numbers like this. And then this last one was a Bukele quote. We covered this. People want these people out. 66% agree that you can't just free the criminals and think crime's going to go down. You have to imprison them so that you can liberate Americans. So post your theories about what you think is happening. Hit like. Let's talk a little bit to chat about what's going on with Gavin Newsom. I really think that they're just going to try to grind Trump to a halt by redirecting attention to this. I don't think it's going to work, though. This was actually a political gift to the Republicans. I'm going on War Room tomorrow. I talked about this stuff today with Steve. I'm going on War Room tomorrow to talk about the polling on the big, beautiful bill, which I think we covered Monday as well. It's not a winner for Republicans. And I bet you in Washington, D.C., a weight has been lifted as people are not paying attention to Mike Johnson and this horrible, big, beautiful bill and what's going on in the Senate. I don't think anybody's paying attention to that now. A gift, an absolute gift to Republicans. And Democrats did it. That's what's crazy. If you've learned something, please follow us at RasmussenReports.com, Rasmussen_poll at Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Mark_R_Mitchell at Twitter. And thanks for watching.